Over the past century, Catholic higher education in the United States has undergone a transformative journey, evolving from a marginalized position in predominantly Protestant and secular academic landscapes to achieving a respectable position in research rigor as well as social reputation. This video explores the histories, theological reconciliations, and institutional reforms that enabled the Catholics to not only catch up with, but in many respects overshadow the Protestant educational tradition. Central to this narrative is the Catholic Church's nuanced relationship with science, epitomized by its embrace of evolutionary theory and its commitment grassroots partnership between the clergies and academicians, which redefined Catholic universities as bastions of faith and reason. Even if many Catholics might complain about liberal infiltration in the Catholic universities, I would argue they are in a much better positions than most of the other Protestant denominations. Let's dive in and explore the history. We could trace the roots of Christianity's commitment to education to the early church fathers, such as Augustine of Hippo, who advocated for the synthesis of faith and reason, asserting that all truth is God's truth. By the Middle Ages, monastic and cathedral schools became Europe's intellectual backbone. Monastery, following the Benedictine rules, preserved classical knowledge through scriptoria, where monks meticulously copied ancient texts, ensuring their survival through the Middle Age. These institutions taught the trivium, which are grammar, rhetoric, logic, and quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and music, alongside theology and medicine. By the 12th century, schools like those in Paris and Oxford evolved into Europe's first universities. However, with the Protestant Reformation, the intellectual landscapes began to shift. By emphasizing the importance of lay people reading the Bible in vernacular languages, Protestants established schools and universities to educate both clergy and laity in biblical interpretation. This movement gave rise to institutions that prioritize vernacular education and empirical inquiry, gradually outpacing Catholic universities, many of which remained anchored in Aristotelian scholasticism. It was not until the Vatican Second Council, which was held from 1962 to 1965, that the Church fully embraced modernity and loosened its grip on neo-scholasticism, encouraging engagement with modern thought. As Protestantism spread beyond Europe, so too did its educational ideas in colonial America. Early Protestant settlers, many of them Calvinists, established some of the nation's first universities. For example, Harvard was established by Puritan, Yale by Congregationalists, and Princeton by Presbyterian. These were universities rooted in Reformed theology, where the teaching faculties need to conform to the Calvinist creeds and catechisms. Naturally, as more Catholic immigrants were coming to America, they responded by founding their own institutions. In 1789, Georgetown University was founded by John Carroll, the first Catholic bishop in America, who was the cousin of Charles Carroll, one of the signers of Declaration of Independence. In 1842, the University of Notre Dame was founded by Father Edward Saurin, a French priest belonging to the Congregation of Holy Cross. Notre Dame's early years were marked by hardship. The campus consisted of little more than a few log cabins and a small church. The winters were brutal, resources were scarce, and enrollment was low. But Soren persevered, driven by his belief that education could uplift both individuals and communities. In the meantime, the encroaching ideas of enlightenment that emphasized reason over faith led to the secularization of many Protestant institutions, which abandoned their religious affiliations in favor of academic rigor. Starting in 18th century, the Ivy League began distancing themselves from explicit religious affiliations. Even their associated seminaries have largely shifted to liberalism. This shift mirrored broader trends among Calvinist and Lutheran institutions, which increasingly prioritized secular academic rigor over doctrinal instruction. In 1708, John Leverett became the first secular president of Harvard. His presidency was marked by efforts to reduce explicit religious domination in the curriculum and research directions. By the mid-20th century, schools like Princeton and Harvard had largely abandoned their sectarian identities. This secular vacuum created an opportunity for Catholic universities. By the mid-20th century, Catholic universities began shedding their ghetto reputation. Jesuit institutions like Boston College and Fordham received huge investments from the church, which allowed them to expand their academic programs and research facilities. The 1990 Apostolic Constitution, Ex Corde Ecclesiae, marked a watershed, promulgated by Pope John Paul II. It mandated Catholic universities to serve as living institutional witness to Christ while fostering dialogue between faith and reason. The document required university presidents to promote Catholic identities. Theology faculty received a mandate from the local bishop, and that Catholic universities maintain strong institutional relationships with church authorities. These requirements created accountability mechanisms that Protestant universities had lacked, effectively preventing the gradual drift towards secularism that had affected institutions like Harvard and Princeton. Ex Corde Ecclesiae also mandated that Catholic values permeate all academic disciplines, not just theology, ensuring that faith remained integrated with intellectual inquiry across the curriculum. The Constitution spurred a wave of Orthodox renewal, exemplified by institutions like Franciscan University of Steubenville and Ave Maria University, which combined rigorous academics with unwavering Catholic identity. Meanwhile, established universities like Notre Dame had pre-existing elements such as theology requirements and campus ministry programs, but their response to ECE was mixed, reflecting ongoing tensions between institutional autonomy and religious mission. While Catholic universities have not been entirely immune to secularizing influences, with some institutions occasionally challenging church teachings or embracing more progressive interpretations, especially since 1966. The structural safeguards established by the document Ex Corde Ecclesiae have prevented the kind of wholesale secularization seen in Protestant institutions. By 2022, Georgetown, Notre Dame, and Boston College ranked among the top 100 U.S. universities excelling in law, medicine, and social sciences. Other Catholic universities, such as the Catholic University of America, also counted as one of the universities with high research activities, with ranking goes head-to-head with the Christian Reformed Church's Calvin University. Their successes stemmed from its ability to retain the religious character while still pursuing high-impact research, and this is attributed to these several factors. Most important of all is the general positive attitude towards science. Since Pope Pius Humorous January document in 1950, the Church has gradually warmed up to the idea of theistic evolution, engaging with it and with science more general in a more open and thoughtful way. John Paul II explicitly stated in 1996 that evolution is more than a hypothesis, provided it acknowledges divine purpose. In general, the Catholic Church is in a much better position than the fundamental Protestants, especially the evangelical Christians, who are still struggling with the tension between biblical inerrancy and scientific evidence. But you might wonder, how does it help with the university ranking? Well, it actually means the Catholic University does not have to divorce itself from the religious institution in order to pursue their scientific research, so that they largely avoided the huge secularization trends that prevailed among the Ivy League. So basically, they don't have to choose between science and religion. Both can coexist together. Building on the renewed commitment to integrating faith and modern scholarship, Catholic academia has not only overhauled its institutional framework, but also paved the way for pioneering contributions in science. The same spirit that rejuvenate these educational institutions now echoes in the groundbreaking work of individuals whose discoveries bridge the gap between theological insight and empirical inquiry. In the following section, we delve into the lives of these trailblazers, exploring how their innovative approaches continue to inspire a harmonious dialogue between faith and reason. First, Gregor Mendel, renowned as the father of modern genetics, was an Austrian friar who laid down the principles of heredity that have fundamentally influenced the way we understand biological evolution. His meticulous experiments provided the groundwork for later breakthroughs in biology and medicine, affirming that scientific inquiry can radically transform established perceptions. Similarly, Georges Lemaître, a Belgian priest and astronomer, posited the theory that would eventually be known as the Big Bang. His pioneering work in cosmology underscored that the origins of the universe can be understood through the harmonious integration of faith and scientific discovery. In America, contributions from Catholic scholars and institutions continue to enrich this tradition. Dr. Jonathan Lunin, a planetary scientist and Catholic convert who had led NASA missions to Saturn, co-founded the Society of Catholic Scientists in 2016. These organizations now boast 1,600 members worldwide, fostering dialogue between faith and scientific discovery. Another significant contributor was Sister Mary Kenneth Keller, the first American woman to earn a PhD in computer science. She not only co-developed the basic programming language, but also became an advocate for women in STEM fields, leaving a lasting legacy. Today, Catholic universities educate nearly 6 million students globally, with India alone hosting hundreds of Catholic-affiliated colleges. Over time, Georgetown University grew into a prestigious institution, producing leaders across various spheres, including politicians and leaders such as President Bill Clinton. Despite tensions over secularization, Catholic academia thrives through institutions like Catholic Tech, which combines R1 level research with daily mass and ethics-driven STEM curricula. The Society of Catholic Scientists foster dialogue on issues such as AI, climate change, and bioethics, guided by encyclicals like Laudato Si. Catholic success in higher education also has the positive impact of attracting high-profile converts to the faith. Recent decades have seen notable public figures embrace Catholicism, such as J.D. Vance. In a century, Catholics transformed the higher education by simultaneously conducting high research activities and serving the faithful through meaningful dialogues. It was not a question that, as of today, they surpassed Protestant educational models in both scale and societal impact, as the Ivy League still grappled with its secular and leftist identity, whereas the fundamental schools still struggled with evolutions. Catholic universities stand as beacons for all Protestants to consider and learn from. The unfortunate Ivy League's secularization reflects a broader Protestant retreat from integrating faith and academia. Yet we learn from our Catholic brethren that this trend is not inevitable. Calvinism's rich intellectual legacy, from the University of Geneva to the scientific rigor of Puritan scholars, positions it to reclaim the leadership. If we could learn from the Catholic centralized and tolerant approach to scientific research, it was my hope that by embracing Catholic strategies, such as rejecting hard faith-science dichotomy, emphasizing the centralized church academic partnerships, and encouraging the grassroots movement, our reformed institutions could counter secular trends while pursuing our cultural mandate in the higher education. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content. Until next time, goodbye.